Hi, my name is Eric Thompson.
Charles Isbell, pleasure to meet you.
Yes, sir. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
What do you want to know?
Everything.
Everything?
Yes, sir.
How long is this going to go on? Because I'll talk forever if you let me. I think I'm a computer scientist. I'm a computationalist. That's what I do. I am a person who cares about large-scale interaction, cares about building systems that can interact with human beings, can model human beings. I'm a person who cares about bringing math to the problem, and I'm a person who cares about actually solving problems that some people might actually care about.
Okay. So do you think it's actually difficult bringing math into every problem?
Yes, it is. But, so on the one hand, the answer is yes. On the other hand, the answer is no. The answer is yes, because typically what goes on with the mathematical solutions that people bring to bear is a bunch of unspoken assumptions. So you assume that the world is reasonable. You assume that the world is repeatable. You assume that the world is stationary. You assume that you can actually model what you want to model based on the assumptions that you bring to bear with the math. In practice, it turns out, when you're interacting with humans and you're trying to model these kinds of things, that all of those assumptions are false. That people change, people are inconsistent from moment to moment, people are motivated by things that are very difficult to capture in the typical models. So it's hard to bring math to bear on that. On the other hand, if you realize that what's really going on is that your assumptions are broken, then you can bring math to bear to help you to figure out how you need to change and update those assumptions. If you change and update those assumptions, then you just fix the math and the right thing happens. A lot of the work that I've been doing for the last 10 years or so is exactly in this space, where the goal is to take these mathematical tools that are well understood, reveal what the assumptions are, where they're broken, and then fix the algorithms, fix the math, so that they take directly into account what it is we actually find out people really care about, or what it is that people are doing.
Okay. So, well, let's jump back to the beginning. How did you first get into the computer science field?
Well, that's a less interesting question than you might think it would be. I've always known that this is what I wanted to do. So somewhere around the time I was 8 years old.
Wow, it's amazing because when I was growing up as a little kid, I don't know where I got the idea from, but everyone would ask me what I want to do when I grew up. Now I would say I'm a mathematical scientist. We thought it was kind of,
When I was 8 years old, I said, I'm going to be a computer scientist. I didn't know what it was, but that's what I was going to be. I was going to get a PhD. I didn't know what that was, but I knew I was going to do it. And that I was going to be a professor somewhere. By the time I got to late elementary school, early high school, I knew where I was going to get my undergraduate degree, and I knew where I was going to get my PhD. And pretty much I followed what I thought I wanted to follow.
Okay, so you think it was hard actually to achieve those goals? Was it hard to encourage yourself or find encouragement or to get people to help push you along the way?
So it wasn't for me. I mean, I had a very supportive family. My mother in particular was sort of very good at allowing me to do the things that I wanted to do, and I was lucky in that I knew what I wanted to do, and there was nothing along the way that actually discouraged me from doing those things. The actual biggest problem that I had was not in figuring out or having the motivation to do what I wanted to do. It's that when you know what you want to do for so long, you tend to live for the next thing that you're going to do, not for the thing that you're currently doing. So I would sometimes lose the moment for the future until I got to the point where I hadn't figured out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, which is more or less where I am now, other than doing the things that I'm doing. So I kind of achieved the things that I set out to achieve when I was 8, 9, or 10 years old, and now there's an interesting question of figuring out what cool things I can do next.
Okay, so if you were to speak to someone who was getting ready to graduate from college and was confused about taking the next step to get a master's degree and the next step to get a PhD, what would you say to encourage them?
Well, I would tell them, so first off, it would depend on the person, but I think first off, I would tell them that you can probably accomplish almost anything that you want to accomplish. And the single most important thing for getting a PhD, or even going to grad school getting a master's degree, is that you actually really want to do what it is that you want to do. So one of the things about getting a PhD, and I tell students this all the time, is that really smart people can do it, people who work really hard can do it, but really smart people who work really hard can't do it if it isn't what they really, really want. Because at the end of the day, you don't have to get the PhD. It's not going to give you 3 times more money than you would have gotten before. You're doing it because you care. Because that's the thing that's going to get you through the first time you have a hard assignment, or that you have to figure out how to invent something from scratch out of whole cloth. It's the desire to actually get it done. So I would tell them that the most important thing is to be sure this is what they want, to make certain that when you go through the process that you ask yourself the question of whether it's what you want, and if the answer is yes, you just continue to pursue it until you get there. This is what my mother would tell me, and this is what I would pass along.
That's some great knowledge, great piece of knowledge to have. As far as research, what would you tell people to encourage them to do research, or to basically get rid of the stereotype that research is boring, you put to a bunch of paperwork?
I didn't know that was a stereotype about research. I think, look, research is very simple. Research is an opportunity to do whatever it is you feel like doing. And you're in control, you get to decide what's interesting. You have to convince people occasionally you've done something interesting, but actually there's a lot less to that than you would think. You think a problem is worth solving, you go out, you formulate it, and you work hard to solve it. What more could you want out of life, right? I want to decide what I'm going to do tomorrow. You know, being a professor, or doing research in general, though particularly being a professor, is like being an entrepreneur, where you get to decide what the product is you're going to bring to market, and you accept that you have a safety net, the university, where you have to teach, you have to do various other things. But that safety net allows you to take really big risks without having to worry about losing the entire company and starting over from scratch. This is what research buys you. This is the thing that has to motivate you if you want to get a PhD or if you want to do some kind of sort of long-term academic work like that. You're interested in having control over the things that you do, including the things you don't yet know you want to do, then research is the way to go. It's like any other creative enterprise. You get to decide what is interesting to you, you get to create your own moral universe, and you pursue what you want to pursue.
Okay. And one last question for you. As far as finding research ideas, what would you say would be your method that you use to come up with the ideas for research?
Well, I'll tell you a little secret. There's two parts to that. One part's boring. It has to do with studying and figuring out what to do and what tools to bring to bear. The part that's interesting, I think, is I try to work on problems that, if they were solved, would make my life easier. I have a set of interests, a set of things I really want to see happen. I want the world to change in a particular way. I think, if I had that thing, then my life would be cooler. And so I pursue that thing if I think that I can. That's what motivates me. Actually, when I say that out loud, it sounds pretty selfish, right? My goal is not to make other people happy. My goal is to make me happy. But you know what? That's what motivates me. Find the problems that you care about, that you wish were solved. Those are the problems that you should pursue.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime.